I didn't come here today to entertain you. I came here today to sell you something. So this is my friend, Dan. Dan happens to be a director of Rotary International. He is our director. There's 17 directors in the world. And Dan said this out last week, and I thought it was kind of interesting. Rotary Stock and Trade are the projects we generate and complete. Collectively, we strive to make the world's communities better places to live by doing projects. Each of these projects was created by a generator, somebody in a club who started an idea. Polio Plus started with a member of a club in the Philippines. And all these projects that we do start that way. I was very fortunate back in 1987, 1988, when RILA was at its very beginning. Actually, I didn't go to the first RILA. The first RILA was pretty good. Second RILA was, well, the RILA chairman called the district governor 2 weeks before RILA and said, "Oh, I haven't done anything." That's what district governors like to hear. Past district governor Jerry Tamby and I put RILA together in an afternoon. RILA's turned out to be a pretty good program, wouldn't you say? Yeah. We've been doing that for a long time. And then about 2000, I went to a RILA conference for Rotary International with Barbara Risha Welch. We heard about all the different kinds of ideas of how people ran Rotary RILAs in the world. And our district was not real happy about one thing about RILA. And that was that we were sending 288 kids every year, and everybody wanted to send more. So the thought was, well, why don't we have RILA in southern Nevada and RILA in southern California? Now, that's a bad idea, because the people in southern Nevada already think that there are stepchildren. That wasn't going to work. And somebody said, well, why don't we have RILA for girls and RILA for boys? And they actually do that in Texas. They have two separate RILAs for boys and girls. Yes, only in Texas, right? And we didn't think that was a good idea. So we rejected that idea, and Barbara and I went to this conference, and we heard about RILA programs, all kinds of different ages. And one of the ages that people that were doing RILA was for junior high school kids, primarily 8th graders. So we came back and we got a group of people that thought that was a pretty good idea. And we started it. I'd say that turned out to be a pretty good program, wouldn't you, Tom?
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty popular. Now we come to the nexus. And I think that we're facing a giant opportunity. Let's start off with the fact that the Rotary Club of Monrovia, and you happen to be a very good Rotary Club. I know somebody told me you're a very small Rotary Club. If you take how many Rotarians there are in the world, divided by how many Rotary Clubs are, you're average. You're right at the middle. I compliment you on this. A lot of Rotary Clubs have adopted the not invented here attitude. But your Rotary Club is willing to try new things and do new things. And so you came up as my #1 candidate for something new. TLC has given us a model, and I would like to expand on that model. What I would like to do is adopt my old friend Walt Disney. I actually met Walt Disney, and a lot of people at Disney were friends of mine and clients of mine. And whenever they would do something, Walt would come out and he'd say, "That's good, plus it. Make it better, make it better." So let's plus TLC. And my concept is what I'm going to call as a Teen Leadership Academy. And the idea is, how do we make it better? I mean, we can't send every kid in every junior high school in the district. It has to be about 80,000 junior high school kids. We can't send them all to TLC. How are we going to increase the public image of Rotary in our community? How are we going to increase our Rotarian? We've got a young lady over here who went to TLC. She went to RILA. You're my model Rotarian. You're my model. This is what we should be doing. We should be doing more of it. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, why don't we do a teen leadership camp in our community? I call it a Teen Leadership Academy. The first thing that I was told by my Rotary Club, which is Glendora, we don't have enough people in our club to do that. And I said, good, I'm glad to hear that. In fact, my #1 target, if this works, is the Rotary clubs that have 8, 10, 12 members, because they don't have enough people. So how are they going to do it? They're going to have to get people in the community to come help them. You have enough people. Glendora has enough people. San Marino has enough people. Sierra Madre has enough people. Claremont has enough people. Las Vegas West has enough people. You happen to be one of my prime targets because you are the perfect club to start this. So you need some people. You need a program chair, a program presenter, a program registrar, a sergeant, and a Rotarian facilitator for every 8 to 10 kids. Well, you can do that. We're not going to take them all up to camp. First of all, that's expensive. Second of all, they're already here, so why would we take them someplace? Why don't we just do it right here? We could do this on a Saturday where they just come in the morning and they leave in the evening. We could do that. We could do it on 3 successive Saturdays or a Sunday afternoon or one evening a week. But I don't know the answer, and that's what I'm here for. I want to get 5 or 6 Rotary clubs that are smart, can figure things out to create the models. And then after we create the models, they can come back and they tell the other Rotary clubs, here's what works. Let's say as a model, we're going to do 6 of them. And let's say as a model, they're going to be an hour and a half each on Wednesday afternoon. When we do TLC, for years we used a guy named Scott Greenberg. Now Scott doesn't do it anymore. Scott retired. We took the book that Scott used called Jumpstart. First part of what Scott did was goal setting. Now, I know that they talk about goal setting with kids. I know that because I've talked to a lot of kids. But when they talk about goal setting with young people, their goals are always, I'm going to graduate from high school. And then what? Well, then I'm going to go to college. And then what? Now, I still am a financial advisor for a long time. And you see that, and you talk to old people, and you say, what's your vision, Tom, of the world? And it starts with family. Now, when the young people don't ever think about family, they're only thinking about intermediate goals or intermediate objectives or intermediate tasks. They don't think about the big vision. What if we could get them to think about the big vision in an hour and a half? We have a different attitude because we are in business. We're in the community. The kids view us differently. You're not a parent. You're not the parent of a friend. You're not a school teacher, a school counselor. You're one of those mystical people out there in life that 10 years from now, they're going to come out and ask you for a job. And it's good for them to meet you. Kids today, they're really not that different. They do different things in a different way. They like to have friends, and that's why they get on social media. And they get beaten up, just like we did when we were kids. But it's harder because when we were a kid, I would not tell you to your face the things that I would say to you on social media. So it's harder for them in that way, but they need to learn how to deal with that. And I think that you would have no trouble, in my mind, you'd have no trouble getting 25, 30 kids for your first session. We've got 3,000 Rotarians. We've got good speakers right here in Rotary. We've got a lot of them. A few years ago, they allowed me to have access to DACDB, and I went into DACDB and I said, tell me everybody who left Rotary in the last 3 years who had an email address. But the thing that came through to me was how many people came back to me and they said, I quit Rotary because nobody ever asked me to do anything. And I'd go have conversations with them, and they would say, and I say, well, didn't they pass a clipboard around, which I hate? Well, yeah, but I never signed up for anything. You got to go ask people to do things. And that's kind of what I think this is kind of cool about, because we're going to have to go ask some people, not maybe in your club, but the clubs that are down to 8, 9, 10 members, they're going to have to go ask people to do things. So the first session, we're going to key on goal setting. And we're going to do 2 things. We're going to have a speaker, have a facilitator, kind of a little debriefing like we do at Ryland TLC. And then we'll do a leadership lab type of a thing. And we can develop those. One of the leadership labs that I have a corporation that runs camps, Sea Camp and Astro Camp, and my employees, I asked them to do something and they went and they did it. And it came out kind of interesting. It's called a voting mechanism. And that's where everybody says, this is what my objective is. And they put them up on the big wall, and then everybody gets a blue dot and a red dot, and they can go vote on which ideas they like. And then all of a sudden you got one kid said, I want to feel real good about myself when I die, and I want to have a great family. And everybody else who wanted to graduate from high school is like, I'm going to put my dot there. I think I like that. So we can do a lot of activities that are hands-on activities like we do at TLC and at RILA. So what would you do for the second session? Well, then there's this idea of time management. when you talk to young people, they don't realize that they have no assets whatsoever, but they do have about 800,000 hours of their life ahead of them. And that's quite an asset. They don't realize what an asset that is. They don't realize that if they are 800,000, about 24,000 of those, or 240,000, they're going to sleep. And they don't realize that a whole bunch of those hours they're going to work, about 100,000. And in today's at $20 minimum wage, they're $2 million net worth already. They just have to convert it into dollars. They don't realize that. But we can tell them that. We can explain that. And then we can do things like, well, one of my favorite time management things is jars. And one jar's got big rocks, and one jar's got smaller rocks. One's got sand, one's got water. They're all about half full. And you say, can you put them all together? And we come with the decision dilemma, if you think you can, if you think you can't. And then, no, none of them think you can do it, but if you put the big rocks in, and then the smaller rocks, and then you put in the sand, and then you can get it all in one. Well, what's the lesson of that? Put the big things in first. Now, do you think that playing video games is the big rock or the little rock? And you get the kids to start thinking about what we call prioritizing. Kids can't prioritize, but they can figure out the difference between a big rock and a little rock. And there's a lot of exercises that we can create, that we could do with a small group of young people here in Monrovia. The next concept we could do is managing money. Tim, yes. How good are they at this?
Not good.
No, they're not good. And when they're adults, they're not very good at it either. So you talk to them, you say, you're going to have 200,000, or you're going to have $2 million if you don't even get above minimum wage. What are you going to do with that? Are you going to wind up at the end? I mean, my financial goal is to have the check to the underwriter bounce. That's my goal. My kids are not real happy about that, but that's okay. You start getting kids to start thinking about things a little bit differently. And I know that they have just passed a law that says that you got to teach this in schools, starting in a couple of years. And you only need one speaker on this topic, and I think you got one in this club. Then there's the other topic. And this is not really one of Scott's topics as much as it's my topic. It's, what do you have that is a great asset that is free? And I used to teach Merrill Lynch stockbrokers how to succeed and be successful. And actually I still do, because I do a blog or a video blog. So what is it you have that is free, which is the greatest asset that you have? Trust. I used to tell people, just if you can sell trust, everything else is easy. In fact, my friend Stephen Covey Jr., MR, he wrote a book called Speed of Trust. And what people say, I can't take the time to build trust. And yet trust makes everything go faster. And then there's the fifth topic, which I think is a great topic. And that's relationships. These kids are very young. And a lot of them think that they will graduate from high school and never see these other people again, right? How many of you still have friends that you went to? Okay. So I mentioned to you Guided Discoveries that runs camp. Guided Discoveries was created and run by 3 guys that went to Temple City High School. And we're still friends. We still have breakfast. We still have this corporation that we created because we trust each other, because we have long-term relationships. And part of the topic here is, how do you turn social media into an asset instead of a deficit? How do you turn social media, how do you get, when you talk about your friends, how do you raise them up instead of just stirring them up? Build your community, build your relationships, build your friendships. Who better to do this than a bunch of Rotarians? We're better to do it than right here in your community. We're better, and you can do it. You can do this thing. You got to take on a new challenge. What do you need? You got to plan it. You got to think about it. And you are going to screw it up. I promise you, you're going to screw it up. And I'm going to get 5 or 6 clubs to go out and screw it up. And then at the end, they can all come back and say, this worked, that worked, didn't that one work, that one didn't work. And then we're going to take it and we're going to go to all the clubs in the district. Some people think that I am trying to destroy Teen Leadership Camp. And I just had a big meeting with the board of directors or the G3. Here's what I would do. I think we ought to take Teen Leadership Camp to 9th grade. Do Teen Leadership Academy, every 8th grader in the district, and the best 300 or 400 of them teen leadership camp for like an advanced course. See, I'm not in the business of destroying things. I'm in the business of building and creating new things. My vision is to go to the Rotary Club of Ontario. Has anybody been to the Rotary Club of Ontario? It's the only club in the district that has a past Rotary International president. There was a president of Rotary International in Ontario. Your club is my target because your club has got everything you need to do it. You got the people, you got the resources, you got the capability. You just need to say, do it. Old broken down past district governor Steve Garrett says, thank you for your time. Anybody want to yell at me?